Running is good for you, and it's good for you in all sorts of ways. First and foremost, running is good for your cardiovascular system. It's a highly aerobic activity which utilizes both fatty acids and carbohydrates for energy. Going for a run will get your heart racing and blood pumping. And people who run or jog on a regular basis tend to have thicker left heart ventricles than people who live a more sedentary lifestyle. Now, that might sound like a bad thing, but actually it isn't. Actually, it's a very good thing. Because this makes their hearts more efficient and able to pump a larger volume of blood per beat, which means they have a lower resting heart rate and a correspondingly lower risk of heart disease. Your heart is a muscle, so it becomes stronger as a result of exercise. And running has positive effects on a host of coronary risk factors, which may also help to explain why this type of exercise is associated with lower coronary death rates. Running is also good for your joints and muscles. It can help you to lose weight and lessen the load that your knees, hips, etc. have to carry around all the time. When you exercise, the cartilage in your hips, knees and ankles compresses and expands. Now, this draws in oxygen and flushes out any waste products, keeping the cartilage nourished and healthy. And in so doing, it lessens the risk of contracting osteoarthritis in old age. Running also strengthens the ligaments that helps to support your joints, and this makes them more stable and less susceptible to strains and sprains. Running and jogging is also good for your muscles. In fact, some of the body's largest muscles are in the legs. Specifically, your inner and outer thighs, your gluteus maximus, quads, hamstrings, and calves. And rigorous exercise like running leads to micro tears in the muscle fiber. And this causes the body to rebuild those fibers to prevent further damage, and in so doing, it makes them bigger and stronger. Running also helps to strengthen your bones, making them less susceptible to injury in later life. Each stride you take when running creates stress on your bones as your feet touch the ground to propel you forward. This stress is higher on the bones than other daily activities like walking. Since bone is a living tissue, your body can sense the additional stress and bending from the load, and as a precaution, it activates a series of reactions to strengthen the bone to prevent injury to the bone tissue. As stress is sensed by your body, osteoblasts are sent to the surface of the bone being affected. Now, osteoblasts are cells from which the bone develops. As the osteoblasts migrate to the bone's surface, they start modeling the bone to strengthen it. A matrix of protein develops between the cells, causing the bone to increase in density. And the greater the mineral density of the bone, the stronger it becomes. And the strength prepares the bone to more easily face the same amount of stress from running in the future. And this is all according to the good people at livestrong.com. And finally, running is good for your brain. It stimulates the creation of new nerve cells and blood vessels within the brain, and it may help ward off Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. Research at the University of Aberdeen found that the act of running triggers creative thinking. According to the researchers, your brain associates forward motion with the future. To maximize the effect, you should stick to a route you know well so that you don't have to worry about directions and can simply let your mind wander. Running also increases the activity in the hippocampus, the area of the brain that's responsible for learning. and it triggers the release of endorphins, stress release hormones that lead to a positive feeling in the body. Just some of the many reasons why going for a run can put a smile on your face. In this video, I want to talk you through the 5 most common newbie running mistakes and show you some ways to avoid them. Now, mistake number 1 is not warming up, and this is the most common newbie mistake. People go out cold and just try to wing it. And this is actually a very bad idea, because when you're not prepared for your run, you're going to put your body under all sorts of stresses and strains that it's not used to right away. So it's like going from a standing start in your car to trying to get to 0 to 60 in about 2 seconds. You're not going to be able to do it, especially if the engine is cold, it's a cold winter's day, that sort of thing. And it's the same with your body. And the problem is, of course, if you go out cold, if you haven't warmed up, it can lead to a number of different injuries. Most commonly are strained or torn muscles, especially the hamstrings. It can lead to sprains. It can lead to torn ligaments and cartilage. It can cause injuries to your bones and joints. And all of these injuries can lead to inherent weaknesses in the future. And of course, these are injuries that can have long-lasting effects. You might be unable to go for a run for weeks or even months, and then you might perhaps decide to give up on the whole idea of running altogether, which would not be a very good thing. And you can avoid all these injuries by establishing a warm-up routine. Now, this routine should be a dynamic routine rather than a static one. And there's a couple of really good websites that you can look at to see some dynamic warm-up exercises. The first one is here on menshealth.com, and you can see they've got this 5-minute warm-up that makes you run faster. And this gives you a lot of good information here. They also have some other warm-up routines on this site as well, so you might want to just simply do a search on the website. But to come to this particular one, it's menshealth.com/fitness/best-pre-race-warm-up. The other one is on runnersworld.com. And this has got a number of different warm-up exercises. You can see they recommend 5 different exercises: hip flexor stretches, leg flexor stretches, leg extensor stretches, plantar flexor stretches, and hip extensor stretches. And you can see they've got diagrams and instructions here. And also, come to the top here, they've got a video that shows it being demonstrated. And the site is runnersworld.com/the-5-exercises-to--do-before-every-run. And it's /slide/1. Okay, mistake number 2 is not cooling down after a run. And just like not warming up, this is a very common newbie mistake. Now, during a run, your body directs nearly all of its available resources towards getting you to where you need to go. And your body's adaptive mechanisms and hormones send oxygen-rich blood cells to fuel your muscles and to clear away metabolic byproducts that threaten to flood the whole system. So when your run is over, you need to return your body to a more restful state, as well as preparing your body for the next run. And if you go from all-out exertion to being completely sedentary, well, your body isn't going to know what to do. You'll be tired, you'll be fatigued, you'll be cramped, you'll be sweaty, you'll be out of breath, the list just goes on and on. And Psychologically, you'll also find it difficult to motivate yourself next time for your next run because the memory of what happened after the last one is going to be unpleasant. So you need to wind down just like you need to warm up. Think of it like exiting the freeway in your car. You'll slow down as you come off the main road. You won't just simply keep going at highway speed and then throw on the brakes when you get to the traffic light. If you do, well, you're likely to cause a rather nasty accident. So your cool down routine after a short, moderate run should be something like this. If you're going for a long run, if you're running in a marathon, then the cool down routine is going to be slightly different. Now you start off by 3 to 5 minutes of brisk and then gentle walking. Then you have 5 to 10 minutes of total body stretching. The UK's National Health Service has this website here, which has some very good exercises for doing after a run. I just scroll down, you can see they've got instructions and photographs to show you exactly what to do. And you can find out more at www.nhs.uk/live well with a capital L /C25K /pages with a capital P /how-to-stretch-after-a-run.aspx. And then after you've done all that, you want to take a shower. Now, don't make your shower too cold because that could cause your body to go into shock. So you want to have it, sort of a tepid type of shower, really. Okay, mistake number 3 is trying to do too much too soon. And this is, again, a very common mistake. You know how it is. You're watching TV coverage of the New York Marathon or the Olympic Games and you think, yeah, I'd like to do that. And you've just started running, or maybe you've been running 1 or 2 times a week for a couple of months. So you go out and you sign up for your local fun run and you think, yeah, this will be great, this will be good, I'll be able to do this, no problem at all, it's a walk in the park, or it's a run in the park anyway. Only to find yourself finishing last, best case scenario, or having to pull up because you're exhausted or, worse still, injured. Not only can this cause lasting physical damage, but it can also badly dent your confidence and make you not want to go out and repeat the experience again. So, if you're going to run in the New York Marathon, or any long-distance race really, you need to start training at least a year beforehand. So you want to build yourself up slowly. Go jogging before you start running, and then run slightly longer distances every time, till eventually you're able to cover the full distance of a 5K fun run or the full distance of a marathon. Now, most importantly, you need to rest between runs. And lots of people don't do this when they're just starting out. They decide that they're going to just go at it over and over and over again. But it is actually very important that you rest between runs, because this will give your body time to repair and recover. So if you're a newbie, don't go out and run every day, because your body does need the time to recover, to rebuild your muscles, and to your whole system needs to recover. So you don't want to go out and run or do rigorous exercise every day when you're just starting out. Okay, mistake number 4 is not keeping track of progress. And you should run a bit further every time, like I was just saying. But if you don't know exactly how far you've gone, how will you know if you're making consistent progress? Now, I suppose the easiest way is to wear a pedometer if you're running on the road. or simply count the laps if you're going round a track, or if you're running on a treadmill, you can keep track of things this way. You can also have a stopwatch to keep track of your best times. And you can pick one up on eBay quite cheaply. You can just get a regular old stopwatch, or you can get stopwatches with pedometers built in and all sorts of other good stuff. And of course, you should write it all down. Just a simple pen and paper, a pocket notebook, or a diary is sufficient. Or you can get an app for your smartphone. Okay, mistake number 5 is not sticking with it. Now, staying motivated can be a problem, especially in the winter when it's too cold to go out running and getting to the gym is a hassle. So you need to keep your goals in mind. You need to remember why you wanted to take up running in the first place. Was it to get fit? Was it to lose weight? Why did you want to take up running in the first place? Keep that in your mind. And as you monitor your progress and you monitor your goals, you can see how close you are to achieving them. And when you reach them, set new goals. There's always a new horizon to run towards. In this video, we're going to dive into the debate of what is better, running outside or running on a treadmill. Now, both of them have their advantages and their disadvantages. So let's look at them both. Now let's look at running outdoors first. First, the pros. First of all, running outdoors uses more energy. And this is because of the wind resistance. Even on a calm day, there's still going to be some wind that you're running into. And of course, when the wind is blowing hard and you're running into the wind, you're going to use up a lot more energy to get through it than you would be if you were just standing there on a treadmill. And of course, when you're running outside, you're going to be running on a variety of surfaces and gradients. You might run on asphalt, concrete, grass and gravel during the course of a typical outdoor run. And even when you're running on a flat surface, it isn't really flat. And each step that you take is going to be different from the one that went before. And research suggests this constant challenge not only strengthens the ligaments and activates a greater variety of muscles, but it also improves your sense of balance. And getting outdoors is just more interesting than being stuck inside a gym. Okay, I know that lots of gyms have TV sets right above the treadmill so you can look at a video as you're jogging along, but it's not really as interesting as being outside in the outdoors. And of course, when you go for a run outdoors, you can combine it with other purposeful activities. You can jog to the bank or to the post office or go to work that way. And you'll meet different people, and by and large, it gives you a break from technology, because when you're out running, it's a good idea to leave your headphones and your smartphone behind so that you can really enjoy the environment, especially if, like this lady here, you're going for a run in your local park or somewhere like that. Okay, now the cons. Well, I suppose the biggest downside to running outdoors is safety. Going running in a bad neighborhood or at night carries the risk of getting mugged. So, of course, when you're nice and safe in your gym on a treadmill, that's not likely to happen. Then there's motivation. You've actually got to get out and go and do it. And you have to plan your run ahead of time instead of just popping to the gym on a whim and getting your stuff out of your locker. You've got to get changed into your running clothes either at home, or if you're going to go for a jog lunchtime at work, you've got to carry them all with you, and you've got to find somewhere to get changed into them, or you've got to carry them in the back of your car, and then you've got to go out and you just can't be bothered. That's a big downside to running outdoors. And the weather plays a role too. When it's cold and wet, a warm, dry gym can have its attractions. Likewise, when the weather is hot, a treadmill in an air-conditioned gym could actually be better for you. So let's talk about running on a treadmill. First, the pros. Well, first of all, it's convenience. You can train regardless of the weather or the time of day. And if you have young children, you don't have to worry about childcare. You can set up a treadmill at home and run after they've gone to bed, or run while they're watching TV, that sort of thing. You don't actually have to find somebody to watch your kids while you go out for a run outdoors. And you get more exact statistics when you run on a treadmill. You can calculate the exact distance, the calories burned, etc., etc. And you can also set the pace very evenly. And if you have bad knees, then the cushioned effect of a treadmill can actually be very beneficial. And it's easy to stay hydrated. You don't have to carry water around with you, for example. And you can take a shower right afterwards, because they generally have showers at the gym, or if you're setting up your treadmill at home, you can simply have a shower at home. Okay, now let's look at the downside of running on a treadmill. First of all, because you're on a moving surface, your stride is going to be artificial. When you're running on a treadmill, you use your quads to push off. Now, if you were running outdoors, you would typically rely on your hamstrings to finish the stride cycle and lift your leg behind you. But on a treadmill, the propulsion of the belt does much of the work for you. And this means your hamstrings don't get worked as much as they would do if you were running outside. And the extra effort demanded of your quads can also be detrimental. And the fact that you're always running at the same angle also means that some muscles get used more than others, and you don't get any experience of handling gradients. Now, of course, you can always put some blocks under the treadmill to create an incline to overcome this, though. So, which is better, outdoor or treadmill? Well, both. Best advice is to run outdoors whenever you can, but use the treadmill to maintain fitness levels when outdoor running isn't possible or practical. Something that is very important when you're running, particularly in the summertime, is to stay hydrated. And I'm going to cover some of the points of doing that in this video. Now, staying hydrated while you're running is very important. As you sweat, your blood volume decreases and your blood thickens. And this hampers your body's ability to move oxygen and essential nutrients around your body, and especially to your muscles, which of course is where you need all the nutrients to go when you're running. And this is particularly acute when you're running outdoors during the summer or in hot conditions. So you need to make sure that you get enough fluids on board before you go out for a run. According to the American College of Sports Medicine, you should drink approximately 1 ounce of fluid per every 10 pounds of body weight 4 hours before running. And if profuse sweating is expected, you should drink approximately 0.6 ounces per every 10 pounds of body weight 2 hours before a run. And you should, of course, factor in extra time to go to the bathroom before you run. You also want to monitor how dehydrated you get during a typical run, so that you can make sure that on your next run you stay properly hydrated. And the colour and volume of your urine after a run is the key. If you're passing a relatively small volume of dark-coloured urine, it could be an indication of dehydration, and you should drink more fluids during your run or in the preceding hours. Now, should you carry a water bottle or wear a fluid belt during runs? Well, both have their advantages. A fluid belt means that you have your hands free, but it also means that you're carrying more weight around and they can be uncomfortable. So in some situations, it might be better to just simply have a water bottle that you carry in your hand. Now, what should you put in that bottle? Sport drinks or water? Which is better? While sports drinks have been around since the 1960s, and Gatorade was invented in 1965 by the medical team for the University of Florida Gators, they didn't really become popular until the 1990s. And sports drinks do have some advantages over water. They contain sodium, which replaces the salts that your body's going to sweat out, and they contain sugars and vitamins to give you energy and endurance. But mostly they contain water, and very expensive water at that. And according to the Mayo Clinic, water is generally the best way to replace lost fluids. But if you're exercising for more than 60 minutes, then you should use a sports drink. And sports drinks can help to maintain your body's electrolyte balance and give you a bit more energy because they contain carbohydrates. Rehydrating after a run is just as important as getting hydrated before you run, perhaps maybe more so. Now, exactly how much fluid you should take on depends on how quickly you need to recover for your next run. And a good rule of thumb is to drink twice as much fluid as your weight was lost. So you want to take your weight before you go out for your run and then weigh yourself after you've come back and calculate your weight loss that way. And when you do this and you drink twice as much fluid, this will aid rapid rehydration as well as encouraging your body to urinate and expel any toxins that may have built up. And it's better to sip the fluid rather than downing it all in one go, because that's going to go straight into your stomach and you may get sick. So you want to make sure that you just simply sip it over a period of time. Also want to bear in mind that it may take up to 48 hours for hydration levels to recover after a very long run. So if you've been running in a marathon or you've been going for a long run, do bear in mind that it's going to take you a while to get back to the condition that you were before. Now, what should you drink? Well, water is probably best, although you can drink sports drinks as well. Milk is good because it not only provides carbohydrates, but it also contains the electrolytes, sodium and potassium, which were lost in sweat. Whatever you do, though, avoid alcohol. This acts as a diuretic and can actually make you more dehydrated. So give that post-run beer a miss. Finding the right running shoes is actually very important. Look after your shoes, and your shoes will look after you. Now, not all running shoes are created equal. And the type of shoe you choose will largely depend on your foot type and the type of running you intend to do. One thing you should do regardless, however, is to think about your shoe purchase as an investment, not an expense. Proper running shoes are expensive, and especially when you're just starting out, it's tempting to go to your local market and buy a pair of cheapo trainers. But most sports shoes, trainers, sneakers, call them what you will, that you buy from the supermarket or from the discount store, are designed for leisure wear as casual shoes. And they're fine for that. If you just want something comfortable for everyday wear, supermarket trainers are perfect. But if you're serious about running, though, you need some serious shoes. And supermarket trainers are simply not going to be up to the job. And getting the wrong type of running shoe can cause injury. So you need to get this one right. And it's all about pronation. Now, what is pronation? I can hear you wondering. Okay, pronation occurs at the subtalar joint, that's the joint below the ankle, and it describes the inward rolling motion of the foot just after it lands on the ground. And this is called the initial contact, and it's part of the stance phase of your gait cycle. Now, there are 4 different categories of pronation. First of all, there's underpronation. And people with underpronation have a high arch to their foot. And they may be at risk of increased shock transmission through the lower limb. Then you have natural pronation. And this is a normal arch, and this is probably the most common type of pronation. And people with a natural pronation suffer from few pronation-related difficulties. Then you have overpronation, and this is sometimes called fallen arches. And because of this, people with overpronation may have issues regarding the timing of muscle firing. And this can lead to prolonged rotation of the muscle or foot. And it can also give the appearance of being pigeon-toed. Now, pigeon-toed is actually a condition that's caused by a distortion of the lower leg. But if you suffer from overpronation, it can make your feet appear to sort of pitch in towards each other while you're walking along. So it can give you the appearance of being pigeon-toed, even though you're not technically pigeon-toed. Then you have severe overpronation, and this is commonly known as flat feet. And if you're flat-footed, you have no or very little arch to your foot. And this leads to poor shock attenuation and a high risk of injury. Now, running shoes also fall into 4 different types. First of all, there are stability running shoes. And these are recommended for runners who are mild to moderate overpronators and who generally have low to normal arches. And these runners tend to need a shoe with a combination of good support and midsole cushioning. Then there are performance running shoes, and these are recommended either for racing or, if you're biomechanically efficient, for training. And they have varying degrees of support and cushioning, but at 250 to 300 grams, they're generally lighter and narrower than other running shoes. Then there are neutral running shoes, and these are recommended for runners who need maximum midsole cushioning and minimum medial support. And these shoes are best for biomechanically efficient runners with minimum pronation, and midfoot or forefoot strikers with high or normal arches. And finally, there are minimalist running shoes. And these are recommended for biomechanically efficient runners who want maximum responsiveness and a stripped-down shoe while retaining an element of cushioning. And these are seen as the midpoint between neutral cushioned and performance shoes. And all this comes from the good people at runnersworld.co.uk. And in fact, if you go to their site, you can find this shoe finder, which you can go through and answer several questions, and they'll recommend the right type of shoe that you need for the type of running that you're going to do and the type of foot that you have. And the site is runners-world.co.uk/runners-finder/6236.html. Now, bear in mind, this is a UK site, so the brand of shoe and the model of shoe that they recommend might not be available in the country where you live if you're watching this video outside of the UK. But it will give you an idea as to the sort of shoe to look for, so you can perhaps find something comparable that's for sale where you happen to live. And it's well worth a visit. In this video, I want to give you some insight into putting together the right warm-up routine. Now, the right warm-up routine is very important because going out on a run cold can lead to injury. It can lead to torn muscles, it can lead to pulled tendons, it can lead to damaged joints, or worse. And when you're doing your warm-up routine, it's best to perform dynamic warm-up exercises. Now, in the past, static stretching exercises were the norm, but now the thinking is that they do more harm than good. And a dynamic warm-up raises your heart rate and your core temperature, and it loosens up your muscles, your tendons, and joints. Now, in a video like this, I can't really demonstrate exactly how you're going to do a good warm-up, but there are several websites out there that I'll show you and talk you through that's going to give you a good idea of the sort of warm-up routine that you can do. And the first site is Runner's World, which is runnersworld.com/the-body-shop/5-exercises-do-before-every-run. Okay, and you can see, if I scroll down, that they recommend you do hip flexor stretches. And they give the instructions. They give the instructions to all of these here. Hip flexor stretches, leg flexor stretches, leg extensor stretches, and plantar flexor stretches, and finally hip extensor stretches. And you also, if I scroll up to the top again, you can see that they do actually have a video showing exactly how to do these exercises, and it's well worth coming here and taking a look at this particular site. Another good site to look at is one run by the UK's National Health Service, and you can find it at www.nhs.uk/livewell with a capital L /fitness/pages with a capital P /how-to-warm-up.aspx. And their routine is slightly different. You can, according to them, you should do marching on the spot for 3 minutes, and then heel digs. Aim for 60 heel digs in 60 seconds. Then knee lifts, aim for 30 knee lifts in 30 seconds. And shoulder rolls, 2 sets, 10 repetitions. Knee bends, 10 repetitions, and so on. And also, what you can do is come to YouTube and do a search for running warm-up exercises. And you can see there's about 510,000 results, so there's lots to choose from. And you can look through and see all these different moves being demonstrated on YouTube. And what I would recommend you do is that you go through and you look at as many of these videos and as many of these sites as possible and find the exercise routine that works best for you. Probably a combination of things that you're going to see on lots of different videos and on the other two sites as well is probably going to work best for you. But everybody is different, so do take that into account. And some exercises work best for some people than they do for others. But it's a good idea to simply work this through and to come up with your own routine, one that works best for you. If you're bored with just simply running your usual run, you might want to consider doing something different and getting off the beaten track. And I'm going to talk a bit about that in this video. Now, trail running, as it's often called, is becoming increasingly popular. And it means running through woods, forests, mountains, and open country. And in the UK and Ireland, it's often called fell running. And basically, it means you're running where most people hike. The amount of organised trail races has grown over the past few years all over the world, and it's now well into the hundreds in North America alone. And runners often cite less impact stress compared to road running, as well as the challenging landscape and being in a non-urban environment. And these are some of the primary reasons that people give for enjoying trail running. And this move to nature is also reflected in a large increase in competitors at non-traditional or off-road triathlons. And of course, you have the adventure racing and this sort of thing. And this has been growing and growing over the past few years. But before you hit the trail and run, there are a few things that you need to do to make sure that it's a safe, enjoyable experience. And the first thing, and I would say the golden rule, is don't go trail running alone. Because that way, someone can raise the alarm if you get injured. Now, if you do decide to run alone, and like I say, it's not recommended, but if you do, you should make sure that someone else knows your intended route, and you should let them know when you get home. When you're running the trail, you should bring a map, a compass, cell phone, and a whistle. And if you do a lot of trail running, then you should consider investing in a wearable GPS. You can get some that look a bit like a watch. And the reason for this is mobile coverage, cell phone coverage can be patchy in remote areas, and a GPS app on your smartphone may not work. Something else that you should do is you should think in time, not in distance. So unless you're running in a circular route, you're going to need twice the time. You're going to need to run to where you plan on running to, and then you're going to have to run back to your car or back to the place that you're staying. So you do need to take that into account. And of course, difficult terrain can really slow you down. So what you should do is to run for half the time that you've set yourself. Then when you get to that time, turn around and go back regardless of how far you've run. Now, if most of your run is going to be downhill when you're going out, bear in mind it's going to take you longer to run back, so you should perhaps turn around about 1/3 of your time that you've set yourself. So you run for 1/3 of your time downhill, then you know you're going to have to turn around and it's going to take you more time to go back because you're mostly uphill. So you do have to factor all this in. But don't think about distance like you would if you were running on the road or on a track, because you can't really take that into account. Something else that you should do is to check the weather forecast ahead of time before you set out on your run. And this is particularly important in mountain areas because the weather can really change quickly. So make sure you know what's expected. And if bad weather is forecast, then cancel your run or just do a short run so that you can be somewhere safe when the rain or snow or fog, etc. closes in. You also need to be aware of wildlife. You know, there's lots of hazards out there in the woods. Bears, snakes, mountain lions, wolves, wild boar, etc. They can all pose a danger depending on where you're running. And so you do need to be aware that wildlife might see you as a threat on their territory, and that's the best case scenario. Or in the worst case scenario, they might think of you as lunch. So you do need to bear that in mind and make sure that you keep your eyes and ears open for anything that might pose a danger. And unfortunately, people can also pose a danger. And this is particularly true if you're running on the edge of an urban area, say. So you need to make sure that you do have some means of protecting yourself. Women in particular should carry mace or pepper spray for protection. Something else that you should do is to wear bright colours in hunting season. If you're in an area where you know there's going to be hunting, you want to make sure that you stand out so that some trigger-happy hunter doesn't think of you as a deer or something and find out only too late. So when you're out there, call out to others so that hunters know where you are, and also so that other people you meet don't think of you as a threat, because after all, whereas other people might be a threat to you, some people might consider you a threat to them. So you want to make sure that you're a friend and not a foe. It's very important that you wear the correct footwear. Running shoes for trail running have a rugged sole for better grip, and they are much more robust than the sort of running shoes that you would get for running in your local park or for just going for a jog around the block. And you should also make sure that your shoes are waterproof so that you're protected when you run through the mud and so on. You also need to make sure that you have enough water so that you can stay hydrated. And this is particularly important if you're running in the summertime. Now, water from mountain streams may not be potable, it may not be drinkable, it may have all sorts of things in it that could make you sick. So you do need to have some fresh water, and not just for drinking, but also if you fall and cut yourself or graze yourself, you'll want to be able to wash the wound and get all the mud and stuff out of it before you put on a dressing. So you would need to make sure that you do have enough water for that purpose as well. You should also carry a first aid kit. You can carry a small first aid kit that's got things like bandages and sticking plasters and that sort of thing in, just to be able to dress any wounds that you might get while you're out there in the woods. And you can get a small one that can fit into a pouch or a bum bag or something like that. And you should also feed up before you go and carry energy bars even on short runs, because you never know when the weather might close in and your run might take you longer than you think. So you need to make sure that you do have enough energy. So you need to have food as well as water. Now, when you start trail running, you should start on easy, short trails and then build yourself up to the more challenging ones. If you join a trail running club, that can be very beneficial, especially if you're a trail running newbie, because you're going to have information from people who know the trails, you're going to have support from people who are other trail runners, and there's going to be some general sense of camaraderie as well. So it's a good idea to join a trail running club when you're first starting out. But above all else, have fun. Trail running is a fantastic way to enjoy spending time in the great outdoors. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 ways that you can boost your stamina for longer runs. And the first is to increase your mileage by 10% each week. Now, this is a nice gentle increase that will stretch you just enough without making you really tired. And the further you run, the more this figure increases, so you can safely double your range in a relatively short period of time. And doing it this way will not only help to prevent injury, but it'll also prevent your mind from feeling overwhelmed by doing too much too soon. Number 2 is to take a longer run at the weekend. Now, if you don't run regularly during the week, or you don't have time to run very far, then taking a longer run at the weekend can help to build your endurance. And of course, you have the rest of the week to recover, but don't overdo it. And this could mean going for a longer run outdoors, or it could mean just spending more time on the treadmill at the gym. Either way, it's up to you. But it's a good idea if you're not able to increase your rate by 10% when you're running on a regular basis to simply go for a longer run every weekend and sort of extend your stamina that way. Way number 3 is to run slower and for longer. So, for example, you could run at 60% of your capacity for longer distances. Bear in mind you're trying to build stamina and it's not a race. So make sure that you rest in the days before and after these long, slow runs, though, so that you can give your body the time it needs to recover. Way number 4 is to increase the pace at the end of your runs. So for the last quarter of your run, run as quickly as you can before cooling down. And as well as helping you to build your stamina, this will also help you to counteract late race fatigue. And if you watch a marathon on TV, you'll notice that the runners keep up a steady pace for most of the course before making a final sprint for the finish line. And because they're not going all out for most of the race, they're able to conserve their energy for the long run. And it's said that marathons are won or lost in the closing stages. And finally, way number 5 is to run on changing terrain. And this exercises different muscle groups in your legs and feet. Now, whether you're running outdoors or on a treadmill, when you change your incline frequently, it gives your cardio workout a boost. And actually, if you're running on a treadmill, you can use the interval setting. And when you do, the machine mixes up both the speed and the incline, presenting you with new and unpredictable challenges. Just make sure that you warm up and cool down afterwards if these periods aren't built into the interval training program that is part of the treadmill. So there you go, 5 ways that you can really simply and easily increase your stamina and be able to complete longer runs without getting completely tired out. When you take up running, you may need to change your diet in order to get the best type of nutrients that you need to build stamina and endurance. And I'm going to talk a bit about that in this video. Now, when you're running, you need to strike a balance between foods that are going to give you slow release energy for the long run and fast release energy for shorter sprints. So you'll want foods that are a variety of proteins, vitamins, carbohydrates and sugars. Now, if you ask a dozen sports nutritionists what you should eat, you'll get a dozen different answers. So here are my top recommendations in no particular order. And salmon is great. It's high in calories, which is good for endurance. It's high in protein and omega-3 fatty acids. And you can pick up salmon at your supermarkets. You can get fresh salmon if possible, or you can get a tin of salmon. Although it's more expensive than some other types of tinned fish, like tuna, for example, it is very high in nutritional value and it's very well worth getting. Then there are eggs. Now, eggs are great because they are high in protein as well as the healthy saturated fat and choline, which is great for the brain. And the best part about eggs, though, is they are a complete protein. And this means they contain all of the essential amino acids that the human body needs to function. And there are very few complete protein sources in the world, so this makes eggs pretty special. Nuts are also great. Not only do these provide fiber, but they're also a very good source of protein, calories, and fats. They also provide various micronutrients like zinc, selenium, and magnesium. Then there's avocados, and they're very popular at the moment, owing to their delicious taste, their healthy fats, and their large range of other health benefits. Oats are great at adding more slow-release energy, and they'll help you to have more energy for longer runs. Sweet potatoes are a good source of carbohydrates. They're also nutritious and they're high in slow-release complex carbohydrates, so they can keep you fueled for the long run. And finally, there's chicken. And chicken is a very lean protein source, and it doesn't come with any significant downsides. Best to eat it roasted like you see in the picture here, rather than deep fried, because that can contain a lot of unsaturated fats. But if you slow roast it like this, or you have it as part of a chicken stock or chicken soup, it's very, very nutritious indeed. Now, whatever you decide to go for, remember to eat all food groups in moderation. You don't want to have an overabundance of carbs or protein, for example. You also need to take your own metabolism into account. Some people process different foods at different rates. So you need to experiment and see what works best for you. What are fitness trackers and why should you care? I'll explain in this video. Also known as life logging, fitness tracking is all about the quantified self. It's about measuring your performance and your stats as you run. And this means things like your steps taken, your heart rate, calories burned, temperature, stress levels, and more. And all this information can be combined to create an accurate picture of your fitness. And when you take all this information and use it to guide your future training, you can see where your weaknesses lie and hopefully you can further improve your well-being. Like the old saying says, that which is measured improves. And this applies in business, engineering, and yes, it applies in fitness. And the more you learn about your fitness, the better you'll be able to improve your training methods, and the more likely you are to be able to flag up health problems and issues with your routine. And it can be highly motivating to see yourself improve, and it can provide data that allows you to train more efficiently and easily. Now, the most basic function, which pretty much every fitness tracker offers, is a pedometer. So you take your regular pedometer, give it a mobile app, and you have a basic fitness tracker. In order to monitor steps, a pedometer needs to be able to measure movement, which means that it can roughly calculate your calories burned based in any given activity, like running. And if you're taking up running to lose weight, this can be highly beneficial. Now, when you're using a fitness tracker on a run, you'll want to use it to measure several different metrics. You'll want to measure your heart rate, distance, route, calories, time, pace, and splits. And most, in fact, just about all fitness trackers will allow you to do this. So let's take a look at some popular fitness trackers. Now, these are the fitness trackers that are available and are popular at the time that I'm making this video. If you're watching this a few years in the future, I'm sure there'll be better ones out there by now. But these are the ones that are popular at the time that I'm making this video. Now, the type of fitness tracker you get is going to depend on a lot of different features and a lot of different considerations. Price, of course, comes into it, but also the sort of features that you want. And I'm going to show you quite a broad range here. The first one is the Samsung Gear Fit 2. And as you can see, it's quite expensive. It's £169, which is about $150 at the time that I'm making this video. And you can see it comes with advanced fitness and sport tracking, GPS, heart rate monitor, accelerometer, gyro, and barometer. And it also comes with an app to connect it to your smartphone as well. And you can also do things like send text messages and so on from the band. The other one is the Microsoft band. And if I scroll down here, you can see the sort of things that it has. It's got sleep tracking. You can track calories burned, continuous optical heart rate monitor, activity tracking, and also email, text, and calendar notifications. And you can also do things like control your music from your band and so on. And it says it's got 11 sensors, including GPS, UV monitor, and barometer. So this is the sort of thing that you could wear all day if you wanted and track your complete fitness. Something else is the Garmin Unisex VO-Move Sport Bluetooth activity tracker. And it actually looks a bit like an ordinary watch here. It's actually quite stylish, and it's stylish enough that you could wear it all day, not just when you're out for a run. And it's £125 at the time that I'm making this video, which I think is just over $100 at the current exchange rate. And you can see that it's got Bluetooth connectivity and a whole lot of other good stuff in here. It's water resistant to 50 meters. The case is made out of stainless steel and so on. Then we have the iFit Link, which is a bit cheaper. It's £69 in the UK, which is about $50, I suppose. And again, it's different features here. It's got LED displays instead of quite a big chunky display that some of the other ones have. So you have to log into your phone to get all the information, which you can do via the app here. And you can see all the specs. Got vibration notifications, and it's compatible with the iPhone 4S and newer, and Android 4.3 and newer. It's water resistant, but it doesn't say where to. Auto activity detection, stretch wristband, etc. And the battery is rechargeable. And finally, if you're on a budget, there's the New Band Active Plus fitness tracker. And as you can see, it is quite a bargain basement price, £28.13. I think that's about $23 at the current exchange rate. And it's a fairly basic piece of kit, as you would expect for that price, but it's not bad looking really for the money. And it comes with a few good features. There's a wireless activity tracker. It's got a rechargeable battery. There's apps to connect it to your cell phone and so on. And it comes quite highly rated by the people who bought it from Amazon. You can see here that 18 people have given it 5 stars. And actually, Amazon is a good place to look for a fitness tracker because you do get the customer review, so you can see what real customers think about the product, and you can see what their feedback is and have some idea as to whether or not it's going to be the right product for you. Now, whatever type of fitness tracker you choose, you'll be amazed at how it can transform your life and improve your fitness and health across the board.